friends. Welcome to the Build and Run podcast, build-run.com. This is a VR podcast for real Unity developers, or a real VR podcast for Unity, whatever. It's a podcast, it's in VR, it's for Unity developers. Every episode is brought to you by vrvu.com, the best VR agency that makes VR stuff for you. We are here at ITP, NYU, the headquarters of VR today on Saturday, where everybody has sacrificed their weekend to learn some VR with John Benton, teaching the Unity Bootcamp. We are now in part 5 of the Unity Bootcamp. It is ongoing, it's huge, it's epic, but it is literally the best Unity education you can get on this Saturday in New York. And if there is a better Unity education, we'll get them. But yeah, you're all part of it. Look around. This is a great community that is just starting today. We will all get to know each other and be better friends while we're making Unity together. So without further ado, here's part 5 of the Unity Bootcamp at #VRLNY.
Okay, so that's a great point about building for mobile, and that's one of the reasons that Unity is by default very stealth. So you add in packages where you need, right? So if what I did is I just browsed my Unity folder. So you were attentive to where you installed your Unity project. So that's my new Unity project. I just want to explain the layout to you. So in your Unity project, you will have an assets folder, a library, project settings, and a temp. The only thing you're really ever going to touch is going to be the assets folder. When you do a build, it will be in this main root, but all of your stuff, all of the stuff that's going to make your project super heavy is going to be in the assets folder. Okay? So Unity installed all of this stuff. There's the new terrain asset that I made. Okay? New terrain. The rest of the packages that I installed were in this standard assets folder. So this is, right now, it's a relatively light thing, except I've made a terrain. And terrains, depending on the grass and the trees, it starts to get super heavy. So, but just like web development, I want to keep this organized really well. So what I want to show you is you're going to actually have your own folders in here. By default, I tend to start them with an underscore, so they're at the top of my list. So I'm going to create a new a new folder in here, and I'm going to call it models. I'm going to do, let me underscore it. I'll do another one that says terrain. I'll do another one that says scripts. You can keep going and keep going. I mean, there you can get materials and lights. This is up to you how you want to divide it. Bless you. Now, when I'm doing this also so you can see. Now, if I look in my assets folder, this is what I have. I have my models, my scripts, my terrains. Okay? So I just want to show you there's a one-to-one correlation between this folder here and your project folder here. Okay? Likewise, when you bring in models, when you bring in assets, you can bring it in to your folder manually here, and Unity will update. Vice versa, you can just drag it directly into your Unity project, and it will update. For example, I'm going to go into my assets folder. This assets folder here is the same assets folder here. And I'm going to drag my new terrain into my terrain assets. Boom. Well, something like that.
You want to drag it to the left.
Yeah, I guess so. Come on. Anyway, bless you. You get the idea. It's already taking a lot just to drag that in. Okay? But this way, Unity is going to know where everything is. And just like web design, if you delete one file or you move it around, Unity might have a little trouble finding it. Now, the way that Unity was created allows it to actually keep track of a lot of our human errors. So don't worry too much about it, but you want to just keep that in the back of your head, okay? So in my assets folder, my standard assets folder, I do have this thing that says characters, and there is this first person character. So I've got a couple of different things. I've got a rollerball, I've got a third person character, and I have a first person character. If I expand out my first person character, you'll see that I have an audio file, a prefabs file, and a scripts file. So my prefabs folder has an FPS controller. I'm going to drag that directly into my project, and you'll see that my game view starts to move. Kind of crazy, right? Let me put it over here. So I release it, and I can actually tell from the way that I'm dragging, even just dragging my prefab in here, my computer is starting to chug a little bit. So even this simple resource is a lot for it. So I let go, and it still is trying to place my first person character there. There we go. Okay. So I've created this first person character in my terrain. And by the way, look at my trees up here. You see the way that it's all boxy now? It's because these are just planes. These are images that are on planes that are going to turn depending on wherever the camera is.
I think you have two terrains duplicated. You might be the reader's twice as slow.
Really? Wow. Excellent. Good one. Thank you. That is very good. Thank you very much. So, okay, so here is very often you're going to want to get rid of something without totally duplicating it, without totally deleting it, okay? When you delete assets from Unity, sometimes you delete them. Like, if I were to delete something in here by accident, it's in my trash, right? I can't Command-Z it back. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So very often, I'm just using this as an excuse to show you, I don't know which terrain I'm looking at here or if it's exactly the same. But somehow, I think because my Unity is chugging now, I've ended up with two terrains. I'm going to go up to my inspector and see where there's a little checkbox here. That's going to take it out of commission. So at the very top of the inspector, with your object selected, this little thing is going to deactivate it completely, that little checkbox. So let me delete one. Great. Ooh, did I delete something? Yeah, okay, so that's the train I don't want to get rid of. Let me go to my other train and let me delete that one. Okay, that train I'll get rid of. Does that make sense?
Are you deleting or hiding it?
Well, I've hidden it. So this terrain I've hidden, but I don't see anything disappear, right? So that's the train I'm going to get rid of. This other terrain, if I unhide that, I see nothing, right? So that's the terrain I want to keep. So I'm going to take the other terrain that I hid and nothing changed, and I'm going to delete that. Good. Anyway, good call on the terrain thing, Well, I appreciate it. So hopefully things will run a little smoother. So here's my FPS controller. So by default, and I just want to give you a heads up, if I play this right now, there are going to be two problems. One is that my FPS actually has a camera built into it. So I've got two cameras here. This FPS camera will override, but I'll get errors, right? So I'm going to hide my main camera and let my FPS work. But the other problem here is that my FPS is a little bit in the ground. If I look at it, you can see it's kind of halfway in the ground. Let's see what happens. If I press play, oh, it popped up. That's good. So now I can look around my world. Right? That's pretty great. And there's my grass. And now, with the WASD keys, I can move around. So let me go into... Hold on, no, let me go in. Sometimes I have to press escape to get out of here. I also want to show you that this is nice, this little maximize on play button in your game view. If I press that, it will let you actually see. Here's my game view. Now, by default, and it's really corny, okay, you see my character is walking with footsteps and a head bob, and it actually, if I turn the volume up, you'll hear steps. Yeah, it's awful. It's hideous. I mean, it's some people like it, whatever. I think. Let me see a volume. Here's volume.
And yeah, so FPS stands for first-person shooter. So it's basically a. We're all familiar, well, not all of us, but essentially VR worlds have been traditionally viewed through a first-person shooter, where you run around, and this is.
It's a little corny.
Yes. You could actually change those sounds, so like it's not so bad.
Well, graphics make that sound.
Exactly.
When I moved my new terrain into the terrain folder, it deleted the entirety of it.
It disappeared so as far as to
Yeah.
Really?
So I just was wondering why that might be. It was because I hadn't saved yet? Because I hadn't saved yet.
Yeah, what you want to do is you want to take your terrain to be safe. If you want to save an object, you take it and you drag it into your assets panel or your project panel. You see where it says assets?
Yeah.
You drag it into there. Just drag it right from the hierarchy view right into the project view, and that will turn it into a prefab. And that way you can. It's literally saved. So if you want to drop it into another scene, bam. You want to put it back, bam, and then you can move it. But until it's a prefab, it's just an object on your scene. You never know what's going to happen to it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but along those lines, what's great is I haven't saved this yet. Okay. So one of the other folders I'm going to create is a scenes folder because I don't want to have those littered everywhere in my folder. So I'm going to say 1.
Is it a good idea, John, to start by moving on the folder before you do a project?
So the crinkling of wrappers you hear is people are getting their Google Cardboard pieces. It's Christmas in February, which is pretty nice. Everybody's excited. You see those smiles and the crinkling of candy wrappers. It's not candy. It is VR viewers.
It's not a toy.
Yeah, so we'll just if everybody just keep the wrappers quiet for now. We'll finish another 15 minutes of some great Unity education, so you learn how to actually use these things. Because until then, it's just distracting noise. So just put it under your seats, enjoy it. You know you have it. Nobody's going to take it from you, and we'll continue.
Okay. So what we're going to do, and because I do want to give you guys time to really play with a lot of this stuff too. But basically, you're walking around your environment. Okay. Now. Before we get too far along, I want to show you something very important. Because whenever you create a scene, like saving a scene is very important, one of the things you also want to do is under File, remember File is the import-export, right? We're going to export this. We're going to do a build in a little while, right? And I'm going to go into my File Build Settings. Now, this is a very important window. The reason that I'm bringing it up now before we actually get there is because very often you're doing a build and you realize, oh, I'm on Mac, PC, and Linux standalone. I could go to iOS or Android or WebGL or BlackBerry, okay?
BlackBerry was.
But the thing is, if I change to iOS right now, it's going to take a little while to take everything and convert it, right? So you might want to actually do that right now while we're still doing this kind of stuff, because it'll take a while. Just to give you a kind of heads up, very often it's good to do that at the first when you don't have many assets in there, because it's going to take longer when your project is filled with assets to then convert it. Okay. So yes.
Could you just have your project saved, and then if you wanted to port it into the different stuff, you just can build for each platform individually?
Yes, you could. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. Now, this top window is gonna shows you scenes in build. Now, I've only got one scene right now, right? But so normally this is where you want to have all of your scenes, all of your different projects, and this is what is gonna help you organize the entirety of your universe. Okay. I only have one project, one scene right now, so it doesn't matter. But it's good to get into the habit of just clicking Add Open Scene. There's a little button right here, because I can't tell you how often, like, I've gone to something and something's gone wrong, and it's only because I didn't put the scene in the damn building, right? So,
And it's also important if you have other scenes that need to be loaded, like your level 2, you need to put this on here because you go to level 2, nothing happens. Why? Because every scene needs to be preloaded, and it kind of optimizes for that for different platforms.
They got to be in sequence.
Yes, and the sequence absolutely matters as well.
yeah, exactly. So here we've done a silly little scene, right? Now I only want to do one last thing for your environment because it's kind of cool and because we're burning through this so fast.
We got 10 minutes left.
That it's a piece of cake. So one of the other things, subtle little things that's really nice to use for 10. I know, we're good. We got it. One of the other things that's really nice, and thanks by the way, it's good for me to have a heads up. Wait, 10 minutes? What? Under environments, under my standard assets environments, I've got my speed tree, my terrains, but I also have this water asset, or water basic asset. And that can be a really nice little thing to just kind of play with a little bit. So I'm going to go into my scene view and say, where do I want to put some water, right? So let me spin out here a little bit. I'll put it right here. So this is my little oasis. So again, I'm under my standard assets, environments, water, basic, prefab. And I'm going to go to my water day. There's also a water night. And I'm just going to drag it into my scene. And it's this tiny little disc. That's it. That's my water. That's it. Well, this is a time when you're going to want to use your scale tool and scale it out. Now, how do I get it to not be this kind of silly scale? Well, you have to work with your environment in that way. But I'm going to lift it up a little bit so it actually is there. It's a little awkward. You get the gist, though. You can make your environment. Let me go into my terrain. Let me make my environment a little bit. Yeah. Whoa.
Party time.
Let me change the opacity of that, and let me just do a little bit of like whoop. So okay, my scene looks a little, my lake looks a little more real, right? But the cool thing here, all I did is I dragged in.
Whoa.
Oh. Okay, so this is the reason that this is happening. This is like what I thought would happen early on. No, because my first person controller, when I said my first person controller, is in my, you know what it is? It's because I lifted the ground up. My first person controller was halfway in the ground. And I just have to make sure because there's gravity attached to my first person controller. You know, I have to make sure that this guy is somewhat on top of the land. So for example, if I put him up in the air, you're going to see him fall to the earth. Whoa! Boom. Onto a tree. Now, here's my water. Now that's pretty nice. That's really nice. So what's
Splash.
so what you have going on right here is you have a plane, basically a plane. The water is a plane with two different textures, one on top of the other, that are moving like this. And the the effect is wonderful, actually. I mean, I'm close up on this, so it looks really. I'm sorry.
Walking.
So your first-person character obeys physics. It can't go up things that are too angular. It has gravity attached to it. You know, these are properties that you can actually escape. These are stop it. These are properties that you can actually control in your inspector. So under these, with your first-person character selected, your first-person controller selected, remember I said the inspector gives you a view of all their assets? Voila, okay? So you can actually take out the head bob. You can change the footstep sound or delete it completely. You can change the step length, the speed, the scale. You can change the angle that it can go at, okay? So this is a very simple way to script your reality without having to write a script. These things, by the way, are all C# scripts.
Yeah, like 6 minutes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you now. We did this build setting. We went to the build settings, right? I'm really happy with my scene. I think that this game that I've slaved on for weeks and weeks and weeks is finally ready, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my build settings again. Oh, man, it's not going to...
6 minutes ain't gonna cut it.
Hold on. So I'm going to switch this to iOS devices, and I'm going to say switch platform. Now, that, unfortunately, because I'm doing it right before my build, is going to take way more than 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this process on another scene, okay? So actually in another project. So let me go to, instead of opening another scene, I'm going to open a new project. It's going to put me back into, oh no, I said new scene, sorry. I'm going to go into open project, and that shows me a lot of different things. Now here's my lab project that I will share with you. I'll save this. And it's going to open this new scene. Now here's this is another terrain that I did. And I'm just going to, I don't know if I have let me throw a first person character in here really fast. Or actually, hold on, let me see if I have I have something in my scenes that will show me, this is 1A, let me go to 1B. Alright, so here's another terrain. And do I have first person? No, let me get a first person in here. Oh, here's a different one. Okay, so, alright, so here's this is another terrain that I did that's kind of like a maze. Okay? It's the same, it's based on the same kind of principle. Okay? But I've got a first person controller in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this. I love this game. It's the best maze game ever. Dakota did a great maze game, but this one's better.
Yeah.
Better.
Nice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my build settings. And I'm going to make sure this scene is in here. I am now under iOS builds. And I could go to build and run, but I'm not there yet. Okay? I have to go into my player settings. I have to set this up for development. So the first thing I'm going to do is plug my phone into my computer. And this, for iOS people, is a pain in the ass because it brings up iTunes and iPhoto, and it's impossible to quit out of them.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
I'm going to do 3. Do you have time?
It's just gonna cut out.
Shutting it down.
Don't worry. Quit.
You're backing up too.
Quit. See, it just won't quit. Stop. Okay. So now that my phone...
You just you hit shut
Oh.
down.
What?
There's no better way to end, end the
Whoa,
lesson.
whoa, whoa, what happened?
You hit.
Hit shut down instead of quit.
It's okay.
It happens to all the greatest developers.